The Engine Saga.
Okay, that might be the last time we see this engine intact for a while. I thought when I started this whole process, I thought I was taking the heat exchanger off to get fixed. I've taken like 7 different parts off of it.
What a saga.
The Engine Saga.
Thanks for stopping by. This is Ben.
Hello,
My name's Allie.
my baby.
This is our boat dog Bruce, and these are our cruising grounds. Thanks for coming along as we push our limits, laugh lots, learn more,
Allie doesn't know this right now, but I'm kind of terrified.
and explore everything that the Pacific Northwest has to offer. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you like our episodes, and welcome back to Breaking Waves. Previously on Breaking Waves.
Pan, 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 pan. This is sailing vessel Kiana. There's the leak. After we topped up the engine with more coolant, we ran the engine for about 5 minutes and it started overheating again. I was feeling like maybe there was something more than just a coolant leak.
Poor Kiana.
Okay, that might be the last time we see this engine intact for a while. I'm going to try and take this heat exchanger off right here. I just watched a Patrick Childress video of how he did his. And the idea, so it's leaking, which is what caused our engine failure, and the idea is we're going to take it off, and I'm hoping the leak is down and around under the bottom there. I'm hoping to be able to take it into a radiator shop and have them tune it up for me rather than having to replace it, because that's like multiple thousands to buy that part new again. So wish me luck. So the engine was so hot when we overheated there that this tube where the expansion tank used to come from, or still comes from, was connected here, and that's melted right onto the male side attached to the heat exchanger here. So pretty hot. After I put some penetrating oil on these shafts here, I managed to bust 2 of them off. But anyway, at the end of the day, the turbo came off, and I think it's never been removed. I don't know if this is going to be a part I have to replace or not. Like, I don't even know if I can get these studs out and new ones in. And then this is all like pitted and corroded, and everything else looks pretty good except for this area. That was attached to the old exhaust mixing elbow. But anyway, that's all out of the way now. There is on the underside of the heat exchanger, there's a bolt going up that needed to be removed, and that's attached to the piping that's associated with the oil cooler and the raw water. I couldn't get that bolt off, so what I'm doing instead is disconnecting the piping. So this is going to come off with some piping attached to it, associated with I think the oil cooler at the back here. So everything's now disconnected. I've had to cut through a lot of hoses because a lot of them are just like petrified and just not coming off, and I'll have to get them off once this thing is off. But anyway, it should come off now, I think. I don't think anything else is attached.
Da 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 da.
I might have to remove these hoses first.
Oh, damn, what a project.
Everything's got to get removed. It's not very convenient.
Another Friday night goes by. I sit beside my engine and cry, wondering why it blew up.
We love that part.
This is the Engine Saga. I wonder what's the problem today, and then what will it be tomorrow? Is it the heat exchange or this raw water pump? Who knows? Always something different. Maybe it's the impeller. That's probably it. This is the Engine Saga. I wonder what's the problem.
So this is the heat exchanger upside down, and this was the last nut that or the last bolt I couldn't get out in place, which is why this piping from the raw water side, that's why that's still attached. So I had to cut the tube here, and then I was able to get this one off. But all the rubber's gonna have to get replaced on this boat. I had to cut it in a lot of places in order to actually get the heat exchanger off, partly because some of it's just petrified and it's time. Other pieces like this piece here actually melted on when the heat exchanger, when the whole system overheated. It looks like it. There's a little hole right there. That is exactly what we tried to have pressure tested the first time before we overheated, because we knew there was a drip coming from somewhere, and then it has opened up to the point that it drips out pretty good, and I'm pretty sure that's it. That was a battle as well. This is the old mixer elbow, exhaust elbow. Got it?
Got it?
I got it.
All right! Woo!
Just another battle.
Whoa.
This was down here. So I got that bad boy out finally. But I might as well put the new one in while I'm doing all this work. So I used a bunch of WD-40, is how I ended up loosening that guy off. And now, next step, that right there is the raw water pump. And I'm gonna take that apart and put a new impeller in it. And then I'm gonna, I think the overheating happened because the freshwater side was leaking. But I can't rule anything out now. I gotta check the entire raw water side. So first step is, I've already checked the strainer. I've opened that up. There's no clogs or blockages in there. I'm gonna do the raw water impeller next. And then I gotta read my book, but there's a few other areas I gotta check. I know I gotta check the transmission cooling. I don't even know what line that is. I know that's where the fluid goes, but I got to figure out which one is the transmission cooling line and make sure there's no broken impeller pieces or anything in that area. And then I'll tell you guys about it later, but I got to check my book, and I'm just going to check everything on the cooling system entirely. But now that the elbow is out, I can start putting everything back together finally, which is exciting. So I'm getting closer, one step at a time here. I didn't think this was going to be, for me, this is a pretty big job, doing all this kind of stuff for the first time. And it's made harder, I think, by how old a lot of the stuff is and how hard it is. I sheared off some bolts. These rubber pieces are super hard. And yeah, so it's a combination of inexperience and just a long time since anybody's done anything on the cooling side of this engine. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm enjoying the learning how this engine works. And
You did it!
I did it!
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. We don't need a mechanic because we got you.
Not true.
We don't need a mechanic because we got Bruce. When I wasn't distracting Ben from his engine project, I was knocking off a couple of my own projects. Sanding, cleaning, oiling our teak, sticking Kiana's names on the sides and the back. I even made a sailbag for our cutter sail.
Allie's sewing up our sailbag.
I got a job at the boatyard near us. First day! I followed a leak under our sink to a corroding pipe and replaced the faucet. Here you go. I learned how to eye splice and made an anchor snubber. We got all new halyards and running rigging for the boat.
Look at our new halyard.
Got a new inverter charger.
We got it.
Not to mention a new regulator.
We got it.
Eat your heart out, boys. Eat your heart out.
And then I even climbed the mast to retrieve some stuck painter lines. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of things we need to buy and a lot of jobs we need to do before Kiana is in top shape. But it felt good knocking off a bunch of projects.
Another weekend, so back on boat work. You can tell by my beard growing longer as this boat project continues that it's taken me a while. I believe that the impeller is melted in place, but I did find a spare raw water pump, and so yeah, instead of fighting the impeller, I'm just going to take the whole thing out, put a new raw water pump in, and I'll keep this one as a spare for now. By the way, if anybody knows where to find an impeller puller that fits between the starter and the raw water pump on a Yanmar 4J, please let us know in the comments below. So yeah, sure enough, like that thing just doesn't want to come off.
What do you have in your hand there?
I got the raw water pump off, finally. So this impeller is why I have to replace it. It's a bit of a mess, but...
Is it melted?
Well, I don't know, but I haven't been able to get it out yet. But it should be a little bit easier now that I have the unit off.
How did you get the unit off?
Strength. Anyways, I gotta go pick up all the hoses I ordered. I got a few more O-rings and gaskets and stuff like that coming. I'm gonna get some paint. I'm gonna paint this guy up so it's nice and Yanmar gray. I thought when I started this whole process, I thought I was taking the heat exchanger off to get fixed. I've taken like 7 different parts off at least. And I'm like 2.5 weeks in, mainly because I'm working full time and I only do this on weekends pretty much. But yeah, the whole thing's probably going to cost, if it goes well at this point, all the new hoses and O-rings and gaskets, paint, the $300 I spent at the
Rad
shop, tuning up the heat exchanger and also reprofiling the face of the turbo. And then drilling and tapping new holes for studs as well. So I think this whole thing's probably going to cost about $700 just in parts. I have no desire to bring a mechanic in here until I'm fully stumped at this point. Like I'm reading this book, I'm trying it trial and error, I'm taking things apart. I'm probably not doing it all totally right, but I do have a few friends and Allie's dad and people that kind of know what they're doing that I can text with, and I think it's for the better to just get your hands dirty, figure it out, because sometime, maybe in the South Pacific, like we're gonna be glad I know exactly how this raw water system works, right? So
Yeah. Get your hands dirty. Get
Yeah,
your face
and-
dirty.
what did we want to say about hiring the mechanics?
I wanted to say real quick that if it looks like Ben has a black eye, it's because I do beat him.
She does.
Just kidding. That's a mean joke. It's grease. He has grease under his eye.
No,
He
it's-
doesn't actually have a black eye.
She ties me up and she wounds me with her words and her hits.
And my...
New pre-bent hoses. So this thing's probably worth like $40 from Yanmar. New stainless steel O-rings. So I'm using some acetone to clean the face of the heat exchanger here, where the gasket fits up to it.
Oh, all right.
Right.
There it is.
Heat exchangers back in.
We're gonna have an engine soon.
Oh, it's been like 2 months since we broke down, and I got the back end reconnected. So that's a new elbow. I'm gonna have to replace that rubber hose. I taped it for now just to see if I can get the engine running, and then I'll replace that hose. Turbo's back on. Heat exchangers back on. The other little thing I'm gonna do today is I think this is the thermostat to the cooling water pump, which is this one here. The fresh water pump, that is, not the seawater pump. And this I haven't done anything to. I'm told the impeller is brass, and I'm told that as long as it's not leaking anywhere, that it's probably okay. So I just want to make sure that this is opening properly. And the way that this works is when the engine is cooler, it stays closed. As the engine heats up, this hits a certain temperature, it opens, and then the cooling water starts circulating through the system. I just want to make sure that's working, because I have a suspicion that all this work I've done is not going to solve the problem, and that I just want to rule this out. 180, like almost getting closer to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see how the coils look. See that? Here's a question I have for YouTube. That's the engine bilge pump. Pretty gross down there right now. But I mean, this thing doesn't kick on until the float switch is like pretty high up, and it allows about an inch of liquids to accumulate underneath the bilge here, underneath the engine, and that just doesn't seem right to me. So if anybody knows if that's how it should be, let me know. If it's not supposed to be like that, I guess I better do something about it.
Is it done yet?
Are you 5 years old?
Only mentally.
Well, that's disappointing. We were just about done. I was topping up the oil, and then I went to tighten this bolt, which is part of the lube oil system, just because I remembered it was a little bit loose and I wanted to tighten it before I fired up the engine. And not even that much force was put on it, and it sheared off in place. And it's like a Specialized guy that I can't go pick up a new one. I got to order it from Myanmar. So we are dead in the water until first I got to get the old bit out, and then I got to get a new one of these.
Another Saturday night goes by. I sit beside my engine and cry, wondering why the bolt sheared off. Ah! The Engine Saga. Oh God, did I shear off the bolt
Again?
The other half's inside still.
I did it too.
Engine Saga. What is the problem now? What will it be tomorrow? Another thing that happened during those 2 months, we made friends, Saxon and Holly. Hi, by the way.
Saxon and Holly.
I think it's really cool making friends that are other boaters as well, and hearing their experiences, listening to their challenges, and how they're similar to ours, and how it's okay for me to learn at the pace I'm learning at, and get frustrated and have doubts. As long as it comes out with me wanting to go sailing in the end, right?
Okay, so it's been a week since we sheared off this guy, Myanmar part. Gonna put it back in with a crush gasket and finish topping up the oil. I honestly don't know how some of the YouTube channels make this shit seem so easy, but I feel like nothing on an engine ever has good access. Okay, so got the screw on, or the bolt on. Last step is to finish topping up the oil. I'm doing it.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
There's the water. That sounds good.
Yeah, but I don't think the coolant is leaking.
No, and the oil pressure is holding. The temperature looks good. And honestly, Allie, there's no oily residue coming out of the exhaust in the water. Yeah. And
I've never seen that.
and almost very little amount of white smoke. It looks really good. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think we gotta figure out why that raw water pump has got a bit of a leak. It's probably just an O-ring or something.
Okay.
But I think so far so good.
What about it then?
So far so good.
We might have done it.
We might have done it.
We might have done it. We might have done it.
I got my best getting off the dock outfit on. This jean vest. And we're gonna go just like a quarter of a mile, drop the hook, and get the hell off the dock.
Damn, isn't it nice to see that again?
This is a moving boat. The boat is moving.
Realistically, we weren't doing anything that we couldn't have done at the dock. And we weren't even that far. But there was something so rewarding about getting off the dock and getting there ourselves without the help of a mechanic. And I gotta say, we both learned a lot in those 2 months. As much as it was definitely frustrating being stuck on the dock for those 2 months, we are both better off with the skills that we learned. And we like to think Kiana will be better off too. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're happy to say that we are off the dock and back on the water. I did just want to acknowledge a couple patrons that joined us this time. So just a shout out to Christy Lynn, H2 Rover, Luis and Andy Holloway, Connor and Allison O'Neill, Ben H, and Colin Jackson. It means a lot to us to have you on board. Bruce wants to say something too. We'll see you at the next episode. Spring has come and gone, and Ben's beard has gotten real long, but we know that we'll be off the dock soon. This is your time to hit subscribe, throw us a like if you like, and don't forget to hit the bell.